see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a b off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Those comments by Donald Trump Friday night at a rally in Alabama is what caused this weekend's massive protest that took place all across the NFL. And of course, he went after NFL players, including former 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick, their decision to decline to stand during the national anthem, protesting racial injustice as well as police brutality. Well, what took place? The NFL had no choice but to respond, and that's exactly what happened. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell released this following statement. He said, quote, "The NFL and our players are at our best when we help create a sense of unity in our country and our culture. There's no better example than the amazing responses from our clubs and players to the terrible natural disasters we've experienced over the last month." He went, of course, to talk about divisive comments like these demonstrate an unfortunate lack of respect for the NFL, our great game, and all of our players, and a failure to understand the overwhelming force for good our clubs and players represent in our communities. Also, the National Football Players Association weighed in. Executive Director DeMaurice Smith said this union will never back down when it comes to protecting the constitutional rights of our players as citizens, as well as their safety as men who compete in a game that exposes them to great risk. Yesterday, NFL players all across the country, even at the game in London, responded with displays of unity. Many of them took a knee, others sat down, others locked arms with coaches, and even some team owners. Speaking of team owners, a number of them also released comments blasting Donald Trump. 29 of the 32 clubs actually spoke out. In Seattle, the Tennessee Titans and the Seattle Seahawks, none of the players came out for the national anthem. The exact same thing happened by the Pittsburgh Steelers. All but one player, of course, an offensive lineman who came out. He, of course, served in the U.S. Army. He's an Army veteran. He was the only player to stand for the national anthem. Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin spoke to reporters about the team's decision.
We decided to sit it out, to not take the field, to remove ourselves from it, to focus on playing football.
Now, as I said, of 29 of the NFL's 32 teams issued statements either directly or addressing Trump's remarks or expressing support for the players and the work that they do in the community. I read a number of those particular statements, and I can tell you right now, out of all of those, what was absolute weak was from the Washington Redskins, Dan Snyder, who linked arms with his players last night when they played on NBC. He released a statement, make no mention of Trump. Keep in mind, he was one of the 7 NFL owners who gave $1 million to Trump's inauguration. That's actually what happened there. Now, okay, now there were only 3 teams that did not issue a particular statement. Only 3 teams did not speak on the issue. The Dallas Cowboys, the Carolina Panthers, and the New York Jets. The New York Jets, of course, their owner, Woody Johnson, was named an ambassador by Donald Trump. But shame on Jerry Richardson, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, who said nothing. In fact, the Carolina Panthers players were oblivious to all of this. Not only did none of them take a knee or sit down, they didn't even link arms. They were pretty much like, what the hell? Then, of course, how pathetic the Dallas Cowboys simply affirming why I can't stand that despicable team. But Jerry Jones has said nothing. Yeah, he was one of the 7 who gave $1 million. Now, this was, of course, a huge story all across the country. Yesterday, I was on MSNBC with Alex Witt before everything took place, and also we were on the air when the game started in London. We talked about this controversy.
It's the NFL owners. They're the ones who are stopping Colin Kaepernick from being back into the league. But remember, this is not just about Colin Kaepernick. The focus is not, well, why won't they employ him? We know why. When you see Jeff Lurie, the Eagles owner, say that his protest wasn't respectful, which is hilarious because black folks have heard whites in America say protest has not been respectful for the last 398 years since the first 20-odd Africans arrived in Virginia in 1619. Protest protest is never respectful. In fact, the nation was founded out of a sense of protest, out of dissent. There's a reason the First Amendment is the first. What you have here, though, is you have owners, you have a league, you have a nation, and does not want to address why Colin Kaepernick protested. Shortly after he took a knee, remember, he was sitting down and then took a knee, he was talking about police brutality in America. Folks then said, well, why should it be about the flag or the national anthem? America never wants to address the prime issue. It wants to deflect to something else. What Donald Trump has done is forced NFL owners to say something when they wanted to remain silent. Now the Giants owners have talked. Now Steve Ross of the Miami Dolphins has talked.
All right, folks, let's break this thing down. Joining us from Owings Mill, Maryland, former NFL player Eugene Monroe. Also in studio, Jason Reed, senior NFL writer for The Undefeated. My panel, Eugene Craig III, Republican strategist, CEO at Eugene Craig Organization. Lauren Victoria Burke, political analyst and writer at NBC Black. Faraji Muhammad, host of Listen Up, WEAA 88.9 FM in Baltimore. Eugene, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on your former comrades in the NFL yesterday, standing up, some sitting down, some taking a knee, making it clear they were disgusted with Donald Trump's comments, but also the issues that they were advocating are also front and center.
Well, you know, I was glad to see, you know, these men demonstrate that they do take issue with what's going on. But, man, what I really saw was a league full of men who are really conflicted, you know, not really understanding how they should, you know, voice their anger. And really that's the core of the issue going on here, right? Everyone's upset about the methods by which people protest. And you see men understanding that the NFL is a very delicate space to operate in, and really, you know, trying to protest without ruffling feathers. Well, you can't do that, and you know, so I think that, you know, I wouldn't call it solidarity. You know, I would actually say if this is an issue that you feel that strongly about, then, you know, you need to stick your chest out a little bit more and do something more assertive.
I got to ask you this here. One of the players former players who was quite critical of Colin Kaepernick for his decision was Ray Lewis. Yesterday in London, we saw him on the field taking a knee. And I mean, I don't know whether he had a Damascus Road experience, but I mean, as a former teammate of his, I would like to get your thoughts on that because this was what I call a put up or shut up moment for a lot of people.
Well, you know, I actually did not play with Ray. I played against him, but I was 1 year removed from that Super Bowl team. But, you know, you know, his comments and his actions don't match up, and really I've heard enough from him, so we can move on from that.
Well, I got to ask you this also. Donald Trump also, and this is the piece that the point I made on MSNBC. Donald Trump also attacked the NFL when it came to injuries, when it came to concussions and CTE. You've been an advocate about marijuana products and allowing that to be legal to deal with the pain. And so I said this to the white players, look, if you don't want to take a knee or criticize Donald Trump about his comments dealing with police brutality and that, at least say something, because he was attacking you, saying you're wimps when it comes to injuries.
You know, but that's no different than anything else that 45 has done, and it's reflective in his lack of compassion for many issues, particularly for minorities, and really with his comments over the weekend, his you know, his just inherent disgust for women as well. You know, speaking out about a player's mother in that fashion too. You know, it's just disgusting and unacceptable.
Jason Reed, when you look at what took place on yesterday, I said this during the campaign, Trump was the greatest organizer for Latinos in terms of his attacks on them. And he probably is the greatest organizer of these NFL players because a lot of them, you talk to them, sit on the fence. Some want no part of this, didn't want to put their necks out. Yesterday, they were forced to do something.
Oh, absolutely. And Roland, here's the thing. based on my reporting, talking to a lot of these guys yesterday, the day before yesterday, reaching out to people in the front office, what the president did was he galvanized support for this movement. Wherever this movement ultimately is going to go, there was a sea change that occurred Friday night into Saturday morning, because what happened was people who were on the fence, guys who were like, well, maybe this really doesn't affect me. Maybe this isn't something I want to participate in because I'm concerned about my own situation. What happened was those people, many of them said, okay, I can't be on the fence now. This crosses a line. And based on my reporting, I can tell you that there were several players in meetings that occurred on Saturday who said, we've got to do something, which is why you saw the protest movement balloon yesterday. Now, I don't know where we're going to be 2 weeks from now, 3 months from now, a year from now, but clearly the president's words, based on my reporting, galvanized support for this movement.
Lauren, I want to go to you first. Again, the moment those comments were made Friday night, I was actually emceeing an event with the Michigan delegation during CBC. I immediately text two NFL players, one a free agent, one who's actually playing, and the response I got back was WTF.
Yeah, well, because the president turned this into, it was of course a conversation about Colin Kaepernick and his behavior and him not getting signed, and of course police brutality. And it turned into Donald Trump saying something stupid again and inserting himself for no reason into something that has absolutely nothing to do with him, while we play around with nuclear devices and healthcare and all this other stuff that he should be focused on. So basically what he did was he galvanized the NFL in an extraordinary way against him, because he's a divisive character. It almost, obviously it transcends politics. When you see Rex Ryan and Terry Bradshaw, I would never in my life have imagined, right, Robert Kraft. I mean, these are supporters of the president coming out against him because it's easy and it's obvious, and of course they're not talking about the police brutality piece, but they're coming out against the president.
Real quick, Eugene, final comments from you before I let you go.
You know, I saw these comments and just thought, like, this is the president. What is he focused on? You know, he's sitting here bickering with athletes, and we've got problems all around the world. We've got some problems with one of our territories in the Caribbean that's in turmoil. He should redirect his focus and really do his job.
All right, then, Eugene Monroe, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Eugene, Craig, your thoughts. Faraji, your thoughts.
So, I think Gene just made an amazing point. We literally have Puerto Rico, who's, they're Americans. They have their lives turned upside down. And this president is literally spending his time, tweeting at Steph Curry and tweeting about protests, rather than being a president and actually leading and making sure that Americans are safe within their homes. I think it's absolutely despicable, the words that he said, his comments from Friday. I think the only SOB that needs to be fired is living at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
The whole thing is still hypocritical, Roland, because what you're still seeing are players who are given a license or permission to protest. And that's not what Colin Kaepernick did in the beginning. His spirit was, I'm going to protest because it's right, not necessarily because it's trendy, not because, folks, are saying you should do it at this point. So it becomes hypocritical. That's why the Ray Lewis situation, Baltimore, we about to just disown bro right there. But at the end of the day, it comes down to what is real patriotism. Real patriotism comes down to when you start to see your country, your nation, veering off of real principles, then it is in your duty as an informed citizen to speak about that veer, to talk about the injustice. And that's the patriotism that we need in this country.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh, my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.